Jimin and Jungkook uncover a shocking promise hidden for years, forcing them to confront a secret that could change everything between them forever. Jimin, don't sign that paper. The voice came from the other side of the locked door, just as Jimin's fingers touched the silver pen. For 3 seconds, Jimin didn't move. Rain hammered against the enormous windows of the old estate, turning the glass into trembling mirrors. Thunder rolled somewhere beyond the hills, and the lights above Jimin flickered once, twice, before settling into a pale golden glow. Across the long mahogany table, Jungkook stared at him with an expression Jimin had never seen before. Not anger, not fear, something worse. Recognition. Jimin slowly lowered the pen. What did you say? Jungkook stepped closer. I said don't sign it. The lawyer standing beside the fireplace looked between them, visibly uncomfortable. An old clock ticked behind him, each sound strangely loud in the silence. Jimin looked down at the document. His name was printed across the bottom. Park Jimin. Beneath it was a single sentence that had brought him to this house in the middle of a storm. The promise shall be fulfilled when both heirs reach the age of 28. Jimin swallowed. I've never seen this before. I know. Then how do you know what it says? Jungkook didn't answer immediately. That silence frightened Jimin more than any explanation could have. For years, Jungkook had been the person who always had an answer. When Jimin panicked, Jungkook stayed calm. When Jimin overthought something, Jungkook found a practical solution. When Jimin was afraid, Jungkook would quietly sit beside him without asking questions until Jimin could breathe again. But tonight Jungkook looked lost. His dark hair was soaked from the rain. Water ran from the ends of it onto his black coat. His breathing was uneven, and one hand remained clenched around something hidden inside his pocket. Jimin noticed. What are you holding? Jungkook's eyes immediately dropped. Nothing. You're lying. I'm not. You always rub your thumb against your index finger when you lie. Jungkook froze. Jimin almost smiled despite the tension. It was an old habit of Jungkook, a tiny movement Jimin had noticed years ago and never forgotten. Jungkook slowly lowered his hand. You still remember that? I remember everything about you. The words escaped before Jimin could stop them. The room became unbearably quiet. Jungkook looked at him. For one fragile moment, the storm outside seemed to disappear. Then the lawyer cleared his throat. There is something both of you need to understand. Jimin turned. What? The lawyer approached the table and placed a second envelope beside the contract. It was old. Much older than the document. The paper had yellowed at the edges, and the seal on the back was cracked with age. Jimin stared at it. What is that? A letter. From whom? The lawyer looked at Jungkook. From your father's. Jimin's expression changed. My father. And Jungkook. Jungkook stepped forward. My father died 11 years ago. I know. And Jimin's father died 9 years ago. I know that too. Then how could they have written something together? The lawyer said nothing. Jimin reached for the envelope. Jungkook caught his wrist. Wait. Jimin looked at Jungkook's hand around his wrist. Jungkook immediately released him. Sorry. No, Jimin whispered, you're afraid. Jungkook looked away. I'm not. You are. Jimin knew that look. Jungkook could hide almost anything from everyone else, but not from Jimin. Not completely. Jimin picked up the envelope. His fingertips trembled. The seal carried 2 initials. PJ. JK. Not their initials. Their father's initials. Jimin carefully opened it. The paper inside made a soft crackling sound. There were only a few lines. Jimin read them once. Then again. His face went pale. "What is it?" Jungkook asked. Jimin couldn't speak. Jimin. Jimin slowly raised his eyes. "It says we promised each other something." Jungkook's jaw tightened. "What?" Jimin looked back at the letter. "That when we turned 28. His voice broke. "When we turned 28, we were supposed to decide whether to keep the promise or destroy it." Jungkook stared at him. "That's impossible." "Why?" "Because I already know what the promise is." Jimin's heart stopped. The lawyer stepped backward. Jimin slowly placed the letter on the table. "You know." Jungkook closed his eyes. For years, Jimin had wondered why Jungkook sometimes disappeared without explanation. Why Jungkook would become distant whenever their families were mentioned. Why Jungkook refused to talk about the old estate. Why Jungkook kept a locked wooden box beneath his bed. Why, on Jimin's 21st birthday, Jungkook had looked at him for nearly a minute before saying, "I hope you never have to choose between what you want and what you promised." Jimin had laughed that night. He had thought it was just another strange thing Jungkook said. Now it felt like a warning. "What is the promise?" Jimin whispered. Jungkook looked at him. "It was supposed to protect you." Jimin's eyebrows drew together. "Protect me from what?" Jungkook said nothing. Jungkook. Still nothing. "Tell me." Jungkook walked toward the window. Lightning flashed behind him, briefly illuminating his face. "My father made a promise to your father." "What promise?" "That if something happened to your family, I would take care of you." Jimin stared. "That's all." Jungkook shook his head. "No." "Then what?" Jungkook turned. "The promise was never about money." Jimin waited. "It was never about the estate." Jungkook's voice became quieter. "It was about us." The words struck harder than thunder. Jimin's lips parted. "Us?" Jungkook nodded. "Our fathers believed that one day we would understand something they knew long before we did." "What did they know?" "That we would eventually become the only people capable of saving each other." Jimin looked down. A strange ache spread through his chest. He remembered childhood. He remembered Jungkook sitting beside him during thunderstorms because Jimin hated the sound. He remembered Jungkook secretly leaving chocolate beside Jimin's notebook before difficult exams. He remembered Jungkook waiting outside the hospital when Jimin's mother had been sick. He remembered every birthday when Jungkook gave him something handmade instead of expensive. He remembered the first time Jungkook had said, "If everyone leaves, I won't." At the time, Jimin had believed it was simply friendship. Now every memory seemed to carry another meaning. "You knew," Jimin whispered. Jungkook shook his head. "I knew part of it." "How long?" "Since I was 17. Jimin's eyes widened. 7 years. Jungkook nodded. "You knew for 7 years and never told me." "I was trying to protect you." "You keep saying that." "Because it's true." "No." Jimin's voice rose. "You were protecting yourself." Jungkook flinched. The lawyer quietly stepped away from the room. Jimin noticed. "Wait." The lawyer stopped. "You knew?" "Yes." "Everyone knew except me." "No." Jimin stared at him. "Then who knew?" The lawyer looked toward Jungkook. "Your father wanted Jimin to remain unaware until the appointed day." "Why?" "Because the promise could only be fulfilled if Jimin discovered it by choice." Jimin laughed bitterly. "Choice?" He pointed at the contract. You brought me here during a storm, put an old family document in front of me, and told me I had a choice. Jungkook moved toward him. Jimin, don't. Jungkook stopped. Jimin turned away. His chest felt tight. He hated being lied to. But more than that, he hated the possibility that every kindness Jungkook had shown him had been influenced by an obligation. Were you ever really there for me? Jungkook's expression changed. Of course. Or were you just fulfilling the promise? That's not fair. 7 years, Jungkook. I know. You knew there was a secret connecting us, and you looked me in the eyes every day pretending everything was normal. I never pretended. Jimin turned back. Then what did you do? Jungkook stared at him. I fell in love with you. Silence. The rain seemed to become louder. Jimin's breathing stopped for half a second. Jungkook looked terrified after saying it. Not ashamed. Terrified. Jimin whispered his name. Jungkook. I wasn't supposed to say that. Why? Because that was never part of the promise. Jimin felt something inside him crack. Then why did you? Because I'm tired. Jungkook's voice shook. I'm tired of pretending that everything I do for you is because our fathers told me to. I'm tired of wondering whether you would still choose me if you knew everything. I'm tired of being afraid that the moment you discover the truth, you'll look at me differently. Jimin's eyes burned. What truth? Jungkook's face went pale. There's another part of the promise. What part? Jungkook looked at the old envelope. I wasn't supposed to tell you tonight. Then when? When you were ready. I'm ready. No, you're not. You don't get to decide that for me. Jungkook looked at him for a long moment. Then he reached into his coat pocket. He pulled out a small wooden key. Jimin stared at it. The key was old, scratched, and attached to a faded blue thread. Jimin recognized the thread immediately. He had seen it before. On his father's desk. Years ago. You have that. Jungkook nodded. Your father gave it to mine. What does it open? Jungkook looked toward the hallway. The room beneath this house. Jimin frowned. There's a room beneath the house. Yes. Why didn't I know? Because your father sealed it. Jimin took a step closer. And what's inside? Jungkook's fingers tightened around the key. The reason our families wanted us to make that promise. Jimin stared at him. For the first time that night, Jungkook looked genuinely frightened. Not of the storm. Not of the contract. Not of the secret. Of what Jimin might feel after learning the truth. Jimin slowly reached for Jungkook's hand. Jungkook looked down at their fingers. Take me there. Jimin. Take me there. Jungkook hesitated. Then he nodded. They left the study together. The hallway smelled of old wood, rain, and dust. Their footsteps echoed beneath the portraits hanging along the walls. Jimin glanced at one of them. His father. Beside him stood Jungkook's father. The two men were smiling. And between them was a younger Jimin. A younger Jungkook. Both boys were holding hands. Jimin stopped. Why is that photograph here? Jungkook looked at it. I've never seen it before. Jimin stepped closer. Something was written beneath the frame. A date. And 4 words. The promise begins here. Jimin's stomach tightened. Jungkook reached for the frame. Behind it was a narrow keyhole. He inserted the old key. A hidden mechanism clicked. The wall moved. A cold draft swept across Jimin's face. Behind the portrait was a staircase descending into darkness. Jimin stared into it. Jungkook turned on the flashlight on his phone. "You don't have to come." Jimin looked at him. "I'm not letting you go down there alone." Jungkook almost smiled. "That sounds like something you used to say when we were kids." "I meant it then. And now." Jimin held his gaze. "I mean it more now." They descended. The temperature dropped with every step. The smell changed from old wood to damp stone. Water dripped somewhere in the darkness. Jimin stayed close to Jungkook. Neither spoke. At the bottom was a metal door. Jungkook inserted the key. The lock clicked. The door opened. Inside was a small room filled with boxes. Photographs, letters, old journals, and dozens of objects arranged carefully on shelves. Jimin walked inside. His flashlight moved across the room. Then he saw something that made his breath catch. A framed photograph. Jimin and Jungkook as children. On the back was a sentence written in their father's handwriting. "If they ever find this room together, the promise has already begun to change." Jimin touched the glass. "Change into what?" Jungkook stood behind him. "I don't know." Jimin turned. "Then we find out." Jungkook nodded. Together, they moved deeper into the room. Neither of them noticed the small red light blinking beneath the desk. Someone had been watching them. And somewhere above the house, a phone began to ring. Jimin stopped. Jungkook looked toward the ceiling. The ringing continued. Once, twice, 3 times. Then it stopped. A second later, Jimin's phone vibrated. One message appeared on the screen. "You should never have opened door." Jimin stared at the message until the words seemed to blur beneath his trembling fingers, while Jungkook stepped closer and quietly took the phone from Jimin's hand, his expression hardening as he read the warning again. "Who sent this?" Jungkook asked. "I don't know." "Did you give anyone your location?" "No." Jungkook looked around the underground room, his eyes moving from the shelves to the narrow ceiling vents and finally to the tiny red light beneath the desk. He crouched and reached underneath it. His fingers found a small black device attached to the wooden frame. "Jungkook," Jimin whispered. "Someone installed a camera." Jungkook pulled the device free. The red light went dark. Jimin's stomach tightened. "So someone knew we would come here." "Maybe." Jungkook turned the device over. "Or maybe someone has been watching this room for years." Jimin looked at the boxes surrounding them. Suddenly the room felt smaller. The air seemed colder. Every photograph, every letter, every dusty object looked less like a collection of memories and more like evidence. "We need to find out what they were hiding," Jimin said. Jungkook nodded, but his eyes remained fixed on the device. "And we need to assume whoever sent that message knows we opened the door." Jimin swallowed. "Then let's stop being afraid." Jungkook looked at him. "You say that like you're not shaking." Jimin looked down at his hand. He was shaking. He curled his fingers into a fist. "I'm scared. I know, but I'm more scared of never knowing the truth." Jungkook's expression softened. "That's exactly what I was afraid you'd say." Jimin stepped toward the shelves. "Why?" "Because once you know everything, you can't go back." Jimin turned toward Jungkook. "Neither can you." Jungkook had no answer. Jimin began opening the boxes one by one. The first contained old financial records. The second contained photographs. The third contained letters tied together with faded black ribbon. Jimin carefully lifted the bundle. Dust floated through the beam of his flashlight like tiny stars. "These are from my father." Jungkook moved beside him. "Read them." Jimin untied the ribbon. The first letter was dated 19 years earlier. "Dear Jimin's father, I never thought the boys would become this close." Jimin stopped reading. His eyes moved to Jungkook. "They were talking about us." "Keep going." Jimin continued. "Their friendship is stronger than anything we expected. That is why I am beginning to question whether our original plan is still the right one." Jungkook leaned closer. "Original plan." Jimin turned the page. There was another sentence underneath. If the boys ever discover the truth, they must be allowed to choose each other freely. Jimin's breathing became uneven. Choose each other. Jungkook whispered the words as though they carried a weight he had been carrying alone for years. Jimin looked at him. Your father knew. Knew what? That you loved me. Jungkook's eyes dropped. Maybe, Jimin stepped closer. Jungkook, your father wrote this. I know, so you knew, I suspected. And you still stayed quiet. Jungkook closed his eyes because I was terrified. Jimin softened despite himself. Of me? Of losing you? The answer came instantly. Jungkook looked at him with an honesty that made Jimin's anger difficult to hold. When I was 17, my father told me there was a promise between our families. He said I had one responsibility, to protect me. Yes, and what happened? Jungkook looked toward the floor. I asked him whether that meant I had to stay away from you. Jimin's eyes widened. What did he say? He laughed. Jungkook's mouth curved into a sad smile. He said the promise wasn't about keeping you away from me. It was about making sure you would never be alone if everything else disappeared. Jimin slowly sat on an old wooden chair. Why would our fathers make a promise like that? Jungkook sat opposite him. Because they were involved in something dangerous. Jimin's expression changed. What kind of dangerous? I don't know everything. Tell me what you know. Jungkook rubbed his thumb against his index finger. Jimin noticed the old nervous habit again. Our fathers built a company together, Jungkook said. It became successful very quickly, but there was someone who wanted control of it, someone powerful enough to destroy both families. Who? I don't know. Jungkook. I'm serious. Jungkook looked frustrated. My father never told me the name. He only said that if the person ever discovered the existence of this room, the promise would become necessary. Jimin looked around. Then why leave everything here? Maybe because they knew one day we'd need the evidence. Jimin picked up another envelope. It had his name on it, not his father's, his own. Jungkook. Jungkook stood immediately. What? Jimin held up the envelope. This is for me. His hands trembled as he opened it. The paper inside was different from the others. It was newer. Jimin read the first line and froze. My dear Jimin, if you are reading this, then Jungkook has finally decided to stop protecting you from the truth. Jimin looked up sharply. Jungkook's face had gone pale. That letter wasn't there before, he whispered. What do you mean? I searched this room once. Jimin stared at him. You came here before. Once. When? 2 years ago. You lied to me again. I didn't want you involved. You keep making that decision for me. Jungkook looked down. I know. Jimin unfolded the letter. I owe you an explanation for the promise. Your father and Jungkook's father did not create it because they trusted each other. They created it because they knew one of them would eventually be betrayed. Jimin's heartbeat accelerated. He continued reading. The betrayal came from someone inside the family. Someone who knew our finances, our plans, our weaknesses, and most importantly, our children. Jimin stopped. Someone inside the family. Jungkook leaned against the table. Keep reading. If you have reached this point, there is one thing you must understand. The promise was never meant to force Jimin and Jungkook together. It was created to protect their freedom. They must never be manipulated into loving each other. They must never be threatened into staying together. They must choose each other without fear. Jimin's eyes filled with tears. For years he had wondered whether his feelings for Jungkook had been shaped by the strange connection between their families. Now, for the first time, he understood that their fathers had wanted the opposite. They had wanted their sons to be free. Jimin lowered the letter. Jungkook. Yes, your father didn't want you to protect me because of the promise. Jungkook looked at him. He wanted you to protect my choice. Jungkook's eyes glistened. I think so. Jimin wiped away a tear before it could fall. Then why did you hide all of this? Jungkook was silent for several seconds. Because I didn't trust myself. What does that mean? I was afraid that if I told you, you would think every moment between us had been planned. Jimin stared at him. Was it? No, not even the first time you stayed outside my hospital room all night. No, not the time you learned how I take my coffee. No. Not the night you drove 3 hours because I said I couldn't sleep. Jungkook shook his head. No. Not the day you gave me your favorite watch because I said I liked it. Jimin, was that part of the promise? Jungkook stepped toward him. That was love. Jimin looked away. His eyes burned. Jungkook stopped a few inches away. He didn't touch him. He simply waited. That was one of Jungkook's habits Jimin had always noticed. Whenever Jimin was overwhelmed, Jungkook never forced physical comfort on him. He waited until Jimin moved first. Slowly, Jimin reached for Jungkook's hand, their fingers intertwined. "I don't know what this is anymore," Jimin whispered. "Neither do I. I'm angry. You have every right to be. I'm scared." "Me too, but I don't want to run." Jungkook squeezed his hand. "Then we won't." They stood together in the dusty underground room while rain continued pounding the estate above them. For the first time that night, Jimin felt that perhaps the secret was not destroying them. Perhaps it was forcing them to finally become honest. Then Jimin noticed another box beneath the table. It was smaller than the others and wrapped in black cloth. On top was a handwritten word. Jungkook. He knelt beside it. "What?" "Look." Jungkook crouched beside him. The writing was unmistakable. It was his father's handwriting. But beneath the name was something that made both of them freeze. A date. The date was tomorrow. Jimin stared at it. "Your father died 11 years ago." "Yes." "So how could he have written this?" Jungkook slowly untied the cloth. Inside was a small recorder. Jimin stared at it. "Is that a voice recorder?" "Yes." Jungkook picked it up. The device was old but intact. There was only one recording. Jungkook pressed play. Static filled the room. Then a familiar male voice emerged from the speaker. Jungkook stopped breathing. It was his father. "You are hearing this, then my son and Jimin have found the room." Jimin gripped Jungkook's hand. The recording continued. "Jungkook, I know you will want to protect Jimin, but this time protection means telling him everything." Jungkook's eyes filled with tears. His father's voice continued. "The person who betrayed us never disappeared. He has been watching both families for years." Jimin's heart began pounding. The recording crackled. "And if he knows you have found this room, he will come for the promise next." Jungkook looked at Jimin. "What does that mean?" Jimin whispered. The recording continued. "The final part of the promise is not inside this house." There was a pause, then the voice became quieter. "It is hidden in the place where Jimin and Jungkook first promised never to leave each other." The recording stopped. Jimin and Jungkook remained motionless. Neither spoke. Then Jimin slowly looked toward Jungkook. "Do you remember where that was?" Jungkook stared at him. His expression changed as an old memory surfaced. "Yes." "Where?" Jungkook swallowed. "The abandoned train station." Jimin's heart sank. He remembered it too. They had been 13 and 14, frightened after an argument between their families had separated them for months. They had met secretly at the old station and made a childish promise beneath the broken clock. Jimin had held out his little finger. Jungkook had wrapped his around it. "No matter what happens," Jimin had whispered, "we won't leave each other." Jungkook had answered, "Never." Jimin looked at him now. "That's where it started." Jungkook nodded. "And apparently that's where it ends." Jimin shook his head. "No." Jungkook looked at him. "It doesn't end there." Jimin tightened his grip on Jungkook's hand. "Whatever our father's plan, whatever happened before we understood it, we decide what happens next." Jungkook smiled faintly. "Together." Jimin nodded. "Together." They gathered the letters and the recorder, carefully placing everything into one bag. Before leaving, Jimin looked back at the room. He suddenly noticed something carved into the stone wall behind the shelves. 2 initials. J and J. Beneath them were 4 words, "Choose each other freely." Jimin touched the carving. Jungkook stood beside him. "Maybe that's the real promise," Jimin whispered. Jungkook looked at him. "Maybe it always was." They walked toward the staircase. Neither of them noticed that the tiny camera beneath the desk had begun blinking again. Above them, a figure stood silently in the dark hallway, holding a phone against one ear. "They found the recording," the stranger whispered. A voice answered from the other end. "Then it's time." The figure looked toward the staircase. "And what about the promise?" The voice became cold. "Make sure Jimin and Jungkook never discover who wrote the final part." The moment Jimin and Jungkook reached the top of the stairs, every light in the estate went out. Jimin stopped breathing. "Jungkook, I'm here." A metallic crash echoed somewhere upstairs. Jungkook immediately moved in front of Jimin. "Stay behind me." "Jungkook, what was that?" "I don't know." Another crash. Closer this time. Jungkook reached for his phone, but the screen remained completely black. No signal. Jimin tried his own. Nothing. The storm outside had become violent, rain striking the windows like handfuls of stones. Then a soft sound came from the corridor. Footsteps. Slow. Measured. Someone was walking toward them. Jungkook grabbed Jimin's hand. Come on. They moved silently toward the study. Jimin's heart pounded so loudly he was certain whoever was approaching could hear it. The footsteps stopped. Jungkook stopped too. For several seconds, there was only rain. Then a voice came from the darkness. Jimin. Jimin froze. He knew that voice. He had heard it many times. His stomach dropped. Uncle. Jungkook looked at him. You know him. Jimin nodded slowly. He was my father's closest friend. A figure stepped into the faint blue light coming through the windows. An older man stood there, holding an umbrella in one hand. His suit was perfectly dry. That was the first thing Jimin noticed. The second was the expression on his face. He wasn't surprised to see them. He had expected them. Mr. Han, Jimin whispered. Mr. Han smiled. You shouldn't have opened that room. Jungkook stepped forward. You were watching us. Mr. Han's smile disappeared. I was trying to keep you alive. Jimin's eyes narrowed. Then why threaten me? I never threatened you. You sent the message. Mr. Han looked at Jungkook. You found the camera. Jungkook's jaw tightened. So it was you. No. Mr. Han shook his head. I installed the camera years ago. Jimin stared at him. Why? To protect the room. From whom? Mr. Han didn't answer. Jungkook moved closer. You knew about the promise. I helped create it. Jimin felt his pulse racing. You helped my father. Yes. Then why didn't you tell me? Because your father made me swear. To keep me ignorant. To keep you alive. Jimin laughed bitterly. Everyone keeps saying that. Mr. Han looked at him with something resembling sadness. Because it's true. Jungkook stepped between them. You said someone betrayed our families. Mr. Han's eyes shifted. Yes. Who? I don't know. Jungkook's expression hardened. You're lying. Mr. Han remained silent. Jimin looked at Jungkook. Wait. Jungkook turned. Why? Because he knows something. Jimin looked at Mr. Han. You said the person who betrayed our families is still alive. Yes. Do you know who it is? Mr. Han looked directly into Jimin's eyes. Yes. The room seemed to become colder. Who? Mr. Han slowly lowered his umbrella. Someone you trust. Jimin felt his chest tighten. Who? Before Mr. Han could answer, glass shattered upstairs. Everyone looked toward the ceiling. Mr. Han's expression changed. That wasn't me. Jungkook grabbed Jimin. Run! They rushed toward the side corridor. Behind them, Mr. Han shouted something, but the sound disappeared beneath another crash. Jimin ran beside Jungkook, his shoes slipping against the polished floor. What is happening? I don't know. You always say that. Because tonight everyone knows more than I do. They reached the back staircase. Jungkook pushed open the door. Cold rain exploded into the hallway. A window had been smashed. Someone had entered the estate. Jimin stared at the broken glass. There's someone else here. Jungkook nodded. Stay close. They moved through the service corridor. Jimin could smell wet earth and smoke. Smoke. He stopped. Jungkook. What? Do you smell that? Jungkook inhaled. His expression changed. Fire. A faint orange glow appeared beneath the study door. The room was burning. Jimin's face went white. The letters. Jungkook ran toward the study. Jungkook. He pushed through the smoke. Jimin followed despite his warning. The curtains had caught fire. Flames climbed the walls. The wooden desk was already burning. Jungkook grabbed the bag containing the letters and recorder. Got them. A beam cracked overhead. Jungkook. Jungkook ducked. Jimin grabbed his coat and pulled him away. They stumbled into the hallway. Smoke filled the air. Jimin coughed violently. Jungkook wrapped an arm around him. Breathe slowly. I'm okay. You're not. I can walk. They reached the main entrance. The door wouldn't open. Jungkook pulled harder. Locked. Someone locked us inside. Jimin stared at him. Who? Jungkook looked back at the burning hallway. I think we already know the answer. Suddenly, Mr. Han appeared through the smoke. Move. He slammed his shoulder into the door. Nothing. Again. Jungkook joined him. The three men pushed together. The door finally burst open. Rain poured over them. They stumbled outside. Jimin collapsed onto the wet stone steps. Jungkook immediately knelt beside him. Jimin. Jimin coughed. I'm okay. Jungkook touched his face. You're shaking. So are you. Jungkook didn't deny it. Behind them, flames illuminated the windows. The old estate was burning. Mr. Han stood beneath the rain, staring at the house. They wanted the room destroyed. Jimin looked at him. Who? Mr. Han didn't answer. Jungkook stood. Give me the truth. Mr. Han looked at Jungkook. Your father believed the betrayal happened before you were born. And he was wrong. Jimin stood slowly. What do you mean? Mr. Han looked toward the burning house. The betrayal happened after both of you were born. Jimin's face went pale. Then someone close to us. Yes. Someone who watched us grow up. Yes. Jungkook's eyes narrowed. Who had access to our families? Mr. Han stared at him. Almost everyone. Jungkook stepped closer. That's not an answer. It is the only answer I can give you tonight. Jimin looked at the bag in Jungkook's hand. The recording. What about it? Mr. Han asked. The final part of the promise. Mr. Han's expression changed. You found it. No. We know where it is. Mr. Han went completely still. The train station. Jimin nodded. Mr. Han closed his eyes. You cannot go there. Why? Because that's exactly where they want you to go. Jimin felt a chill. They. Mr. Han opened his eyes. They've been waiting for you. Jungkook stepped closer. Who? Mr. Han looked at Jimin. Then at Jungkook. The person who made the promise possible. Jimin frowned. What does that mean? Mr. Han reached into his coat and pulled out a photograph. He handed it to Jimin. Jimin looked down. His breath caught. It showed him and Jungkook at the abandoned train station when they were teenagers. They were sitting beneath the broken clock, holding hands. But someone else was standing in the background. A woman. Watching them. Jimin stared at her face. I know her. Jungkook looked at the photograph. His expression changed instantly. No. Jimin looked at him. You know her too. Jungkook didn't answer. Jungkook. That photograph was taken before we made the promise. I know. But she shouldn't have been there. Why? Because she died. Jimin's eyes widened. Who is she? Jungkook stared at the photograph. My mother. The words hung between them. Jimin looked from the photograph to Jungkook. That's impossible. She died when I was 12. But this picture... I know. Jungkook's voice broke. She was supposed to be dead. Mr. Han stepped backward. That is why you must stop looking for answers. Jimin looked at him. No. Mr. Han frowned. No. Jimin wiped rain from his face. For years, everyone told us they were protecting us. He looked at Jungkook. But every secret created another lie. Jungkook nodded. Jimin turned toward the burning estate. I don't want protection anymore. Mr. Han said nothing. I want the truth. Jungkook moved beside Jimin. You're not doing this alone. Jimin looked at him. I know. They stood beneath the rain. The flames reflected in the puddles around their feet. Jimin looked again at the photograph. His fingers trembled. Why would your mother be there? Jungkook whispered, I don't know. And if she wasn't dead? Jungkook looked away. Then everything I believed about my family is a lie. Jimin reached for his hand. Jungkook looked down at their intertwined fingers. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Jimin remembered something. The promise. Jungkook looked at him. What? Jimin turned the photograph over. There was writing on the back. A sentence. Written in a woman's handwriting. Jimin read it aloud. When Jimin and Jungkook return to the place where they first promised never to leave each other, they will finally learn why they were brought together. Jungkook stared at the words. Then he noticed another line beneath it. His face went pale. Jimin. What? Look at the date. Jimin checked. The photograph had been taken 12 years ago. But the date written beneath the message was tomorrow. Jimin looked at Jungkook. Someone added that recently. Jungkook nodded. Which means someone knew we would find this. A distant car engine suddenly roared. Both turned. A black vehicle was parked at the end of the road. Its headlights switched on. Jimin instinctively stepped closer to Jungkook. The vehicle accelerated toward them. Jimin, move. Jungkook grabbed Jimin and pulled him aside. The car tore past them, splashing water across the road. For 1 second, Jimin saw the driver. His heart stopped. He knew that face. Jungkook. What? That was. Jimin couldn't finish. The car disappeared into the darkness. Jungkook looked at him. Who was driving? Jimin's voice came out barely above a whisper. My father's lawyer. Jungkook went still. The lawyer who was in the house tonight. Jimin nodded. He wasn't helping us. Jungkook looked toward the empty road. He was watching us. Jimin held the photograph tightly. Then the person behind everything knows where we're going. Jungkook looked at him. Tomorrow. Jimin nodded. The train station. Jungkook squeezed his hand. No matter what we find there. Jimin finished the sentence. We face it together. But neither of them knew that the old train station had already been unlocked. And beneath the broken clock where they had made their childhood promise, someone had placed 2 chairs, 2 photographs, and a sealed envelope addressed to Jimin and Jungkook. On the envelope were 6 words. Come together or lose each other. The abandoned train station looked exactly as Jimin remembered it, except that everything seemed smaller now, more fragile, as if the years had stripped away the illusion of safety that childhood had given him. Rainwater dripped through the cracked roof, tapping against the rusted tracks in a slow, uneven rhythm. Somewhere in the darkness, an old metal sign swung in the wind, squeaking with every movement, while the smell of wet iron and moss filled the cold air. Jimin stood beneath the broken clock. Jungkook stood beside him. Neither spoke. For several seconds, they simply stared at the two chairs waiting beneath the clock. Two photographs rested on them. Two names had been written across the backs. Jimin. Jungkook. And between the chairs was a sealed envelope. Jimin's fingers tightened around Jungkook's hand. "You feel that?" Jungkook looked at him. "What?" "That feeling." Jungkook glanced around the empty station. "The feeling that someone is watching." Jimin nodded. Jungkook slowly scanned the shadows. "Yeah." The station seemed deserted. But it didn't feel empty. It felt prepared. As if someone had arranged everything specifically for them. Jungkook walked toward the chairs. "Stay here." Jimin immediately followed. "You know I won't." Jungkook looked over his shoulder. "I know." There was almost a smile in his voice. They reached the chairs together. Jimin picked up his photograph. It was an old picture of him and Jungkook as teenagers, sitting beneath the same broken clock. Jimin stared at it. "I don't remember anyone taking this." "Neither do I." He turned it over. There was writing on the back. "You thought you were making a promise to each other." Jimin's eyes narrowed. Jungkook read the next line over his shoulder. "You were actually making a promise to your future selves." Jimin looked at Jungkook. "What does that mean?" "I don't know." Jimin picked up the second photograph. This one showed Jungkook alone. He was standing outside his childhood home. Behind him stood his mother. Jungkook went completely still. His fingers began trembling. "Jungkook." He couldn't answer. Jimin touched his arm. "Jungkook, look at me." Jungkook finally looked at him. "My mother." "I know. She was supposed to be dead." Jimin looked at the photograph again. "She looks alive." "She was alive in this picture." "When was it taken?" Jungkook turned it over. His face became pale. 3 days before she supposedly died. Jimin's heart sank. "What happened 3 days later?" "I was told she was killed in an accident." "Who told you?" "My father." Jimin stared at him. "And you believed him?" "I was 12. Jimin's expression softened. "You were a child." Jungkook looked at the photograph. "I remember that night." "What do you remember?" "Rain." His voice became distant. "My father woke me up. He was crying. He told me Mom was gone." Jimin said nothing. "He told me never to ask questions." Jungkook swallowed. "I didn't. Until now." "Until now." Jimin placed his hand over Jungkook's. "We'll find out." Jungkook nodded. Then Jimin noticed something inside the envelope. A faint red line had appeared across the seal. He pulled back. "Jungkook." "What?" "This envelope." "What about it?" "It's warm." Jungkook touched it. His eyebrows tightened. "That's impossible." Jimin stared at him. "Unless someone was here recently." Jungkook immediately looked around. "Show yourself." His voice echoed across the station. No answer. He took out his phone. Still no signal. Then the station lights suddenly turned on. Jimin flinched. One by one, the old lamps flickered to life. At the far end of the platform stood a figure. A woman. Jimin's breath caught. Jungkook stopped moving. The woman stood completely still, beneath a black umbrella. Jimin looked at Jungkook. Jungkook looked like he had seen a ghost. The woman slowly lowered the umbrella. Her face became visible. Jungkook whispered one word. Mom. The woman smiled sadly. Hello, Jungkook. Jungkook couldn't move. Jimin grabbed his arm. Jungkook. But Jungkook pulled away. He stepped forward. No. The woman didn't move. You're not real. I wish I could say I wasn't. Jungkook's eyes filled with tears. You died. The woman looked down. That is what you were told. Who are you? Your mother. Jungkook shook his head. My mother died 11 years ago. She disappeared 11 years ago. That's not the same thing. No. She took a step closer. It isn't. Jimin watched Jungkook's face. He had never seen Jungkook so vulnerable. The confident person who always protected everyone else was gone. In his place stood a frightened boy who had been waiting 11 years for an answer. Why did you leave me? Jungkook asked. The woman looked at him. I didn't. Then why didn't you come back? Because I was trying to keep you alive. Jungkook laughed bitterly. Everyone says that. The woman looked at Jimin. He's right. Jimin frowned. Why? Because your families taught you the same lie. Jimin's heart sank. What lie? That disappearing is the same as protecting someone. The woman walked toward them. Jungkook didn't move. What happened to my mother? I am your mother. No. Jungkook shook his head. My mother wouldn't have left me. The woman's eyes filled with tears. She didn't leave you. Then prove it. She stopped. Then she reached into her coat. Jungkook instinctively moved closer to Jimin. The woman slowly pulled out a small silver necklace. Jungkook's eyes widened. He recognized it. His mother had worn it every day. The pendant contained a tiny photograph of Jungkook as a child. Jungkook stared at it. His breathing became uneven. You kept it. I kept everything. Why? Because I never stopped being your mother. Jungkook's eyes closed. One tear slipped down his cheek. Jimin stepped closer. Jungkook. Jungkook wiped his face quickly. I'm fine. Jimin shook his head. You don't have to be. Jungkook looked at him. That sentence broke something inside him. He turned away. His shoulders trembled. Jimin gently placed a hand between his shoulder blades. The woman watched them. Then she whispered something that made Jimin look up. The promise was never supposed to protect Jungkook from you. Jimin frowned. What? It was supposed to protect both of you from me. Jungkook turned. What does that mean? The woman looked toward the envelope. Open it. Jimin reached for it. His fingers trembled as he broke the seal. Inside was a single sheet of paper. The handwriting was his father's. Jimin read. My dear Jimin asterisk. If you have reached the station with Jungkook, then the truth can no longer be hidden. Jimin's eyes moved across the page. You have spent your lives believing that your families wanted to keep you apart from danger. That is only half the truth. Jimin's breathing became shallow. The real danger was never outside the family. He stopped. Jungkook leaned closer. Keep reading. Jimin continued. The person we feared most was someone who had access to both families and understood that Jimin and Jungkook would eventually become inseparable. Jimin's fingers tightened around the paper. That person discovered the promise, and instead of destroying it, they changed it. Jungkook's eyes narrowed. Changed it how? Jimin continued reading. They made the promise appear romantic so that one day Jimin and Jungkook would believe their feelings were predetermined. Silence. Jimin looked at Jungkook. Neither spoke. The woman lowered her head. Jimin continued. If they believe they were destined to love each other, they can be manipulated. Jungkook's expression hardened. So our relationship was manipulated. The woman shook her head. No. Jungkook looked at her. What? Your fathers tried to prevent that. Jimin read the next line. That is why I left instructions. Jimin and Jungkook must never be told they are destined to be together. They must be allowed to choose. Jimin's eyes filled with tears. He looked at Jungkook. So everything we felt was ours. Jungkook's voice was quiet. Jimin nodded. The woman smiled sadly. Yes. Jungkook looked at his mother. Then why did you disappear? She looked toward the tracks. Because the person behind this discovered I knew the truth. Who? She didn't answer. Jungkook stepped closer. Mom. I can't say the name here. Why? Because this station isn't safe. Jimin looked around. What do you mean? The woman pointed toward the ceiling. Look. Jimin raised his flashlight. Tiny cameras were hidden beneath the beams. Jungkook's expression changed. They're watching us. Yes. Who? The woman whispered. The person who has been following you since you left the estate. Jimin's heart raced. How long? Since before you opened the underground room. Jungkook clenched his fists. Then why bring us here? I didn't. The woman's expression became frightened. I came because I knew you were coming. Jimin stared at her. Who sent the envelope? I don't know. Jungkook looked toward the darkness. Then we're being led. A metallic click sounded behind them. All three turned. The station doors slammed shut. Jimin grabbed Jungkook's hand. The woman looked toward the entrance. They found us. Footsteps echoed from the tunnel. 1, 2, 3. Then dozens. Jungkook moved in front of Jimin. His mother whispered, Don't let them separate you. The lights suddenly went out. Jimin heard Jungkook shout his name. Jimin. Jimin reached forward. I'm here. A hand grabbed Jimin's shoulder from behind. He screamed. Jungkook lunged toward him. The lights flashed back on. The stranger was gone. So was the woman. Jungkook stared at the empty platform. Mom. No answer. Jimin looked around desperately. The station was empty. Only the envelope remained. Jungkook picked it up. Something had been written inside the flap. A single sentence. You were never meant to find her this soon. Jimin looked at Jungkook. Who wrote that? Jungkook slowly turned the envelope over. There was a symbol stamped beneath the seal. 2 intertwined circles. Jimin recognized it immediately. His father had used the same symbol on every document connected to the promise. But beneath the symbol was something new. A handwritten name. Jungkook stared at it. His face drained of color. Jimin looked over his shoulder. The name belonged to someone they both trusted. Someone who had been beside them for years. Someone who had known about the promise from the beginning. Jimin, don't say the name out loud. Jungkook's voice was barely a whisper, but the urgency in it made Jimin stop breathing. The envelope trembled between Jungkook's fingers. Beneath the intertwined circle symbol was a name neither of them had expected to see. Han Seojin. Jimin stared at it. Mr. Han. The man who had claimed to protect their families. The man who had appeared at the burning estate. The man who had known about the underground room. The man who had told them someone they trusted was behind everything. Jimin slowly looked at Jungkook. He knew. Jungkook nodded. He knew everything. But he saved us. Maybe. Jimin frowned. What do you mean, maybe? Jungkook turned the envelope over. There's something wrong. What? The handwriting. Jimin looked at the name again. What about it? Mr. Han writes with his right hand. Jimin stared at him. So, the name was written by someone left-handed. Jimin's eyes widened. How can you know that? I watched him sign documents for years. Jimin looked at the letters. The strokes leaned differently. The pressure was heavier on one side. Jungkook was right. This isn't his handwriting. No. Jungkook looked around the abandoned station. Someone wants us to believe it is. Jimin's stomach tightened. So they're framing him. Or protecting him. Jungkook. I don't know. He rubbed his thumb against his index finger. Jimin noticed the familiar gesture. You're scared. I am. Because whoever did this knows exactly how I think. Jimin stepped closer. And they know me too. Jungkook looked at him. That's what scares me most. A distant metallic sound echoed through the tunnel. Jimin turned. Did you hear that? Yes. They both looked toward the tracks. A faint light appeared in the distance. Then another. A train. Jimin frowned. This station hasn't been used in years. I know. The light grew brighter. The rails began to vibrate. Jungkook grabbed Jimin's hand. Move. They rushed toward the opposite platform. The train thundered past them without slowing. Wind exploded across the platform. Jimin shielded his face. Something flew from one of the train windows. It landed near his feet. A small black box. Jimin stared at it. Jungkook approached carefully. Don't touch it. Why? Because nothing about tonight is normal. Jimin nodded. Jungkook took a handkerchief from his pocket and used it to pick up the box. There was a tiny lock on the front. No key. Jimin noticed something engraved on the lid. 2 letters. J and J. He touched the engraving. The box clicked open. Jungkook immediately stepped back. Inside was a ring. Not a wedding ring. A simple silver band. Jimin lifted it. There was a tiny inscription inside. Choose freely. Jungkook stared at it. I've seen this before. Jimin looked at him. Where? My father's desk. Jimin's heart sank. When? When I was 17. Why didn't you tell me? I thought it was part of the promise. Jimin turned the ring between his fingers. What else was on his desk? Jungkook looked away. A photograph. Of who? You. Jimin stopped. Me. Jungkook nodded. A picture of you sleeping. Jimin's expression changed. What? My father kept it inside a locked drawer. Why? I don't know. Jimin stared at Jungkook. Jungkook, this is getting worse. I know. What if your father was watching me? He wasn't. How do you know? Because he told me why. Jimin waited. Jungkook took a slow breath. He said the photograph was proof that someone else had been watching you. Jimin's heart began pounding. Someone else? My father believed you were being followed long before we knew about the promise. By whom? He never found out. Jimin looked at the ring. Maybe that's what this is about. Jungkook shook his head. No. What? The promise wasn't created because you were being followed. Then why? Because someone knew you were. A cold silence fell between them. Jimin looked toward the tracks. So my father knew. Yes. And your father knew. Yes. And your mother knew. Jungkook nodded. Then why did all of them lie? Jungkook didn't answer. Jimin turned toward him. Why? Because they thought the truth would put us in danger. But hiding the truth put us in danger anyway. I know. Jimin closed his eyes. He felt exhausted. Every answer opened another question. Every memory had become suspicious. Every person he had trusted seemed to have another face. Then Jimin remembered something. Wait. Jungkook looked at him. What? The promise. What about it? Your mother said it was supposed to protect us from her. Jungkook's face tightened. She said the promise was meant to protect us from her. Jimin nodded. But why would your mother be dangerous? I don't know. Maybe she wasn't. Jungkook stared at him. What do you mean? Maybe she was protecting us from someone pretending to be her. Jungkook's eyes narrowed. Then who was the woman we saw? I don't know. You thought she was my mother. So did you. Jungkook looked down. I've been questioning everything since I saw her. Jimin stepped closer. Then don't trust memories. What? Trust what we can prove. Jungkook looked at him. Jimin held up the ring. This is evidence. He pointed toward the empty station. That photograph is evidence. He touched the envelope. And this is evidence. Jungkook nodded. We need to find the original promise. Yes. Not copies. Yes. Not recordings. Yes. The original document. Jungkook looked toward the old station building. Then we search. They entered the station office. The door groaned when Jungkook pushed it open. Dust covered everything. Old ticket machines. Broken chairs. Stacks of newspapers. A calendar still hanging from the wall. Jimin walked toward the desk. Look. He pointed at a drawer. There was a symbol carved into it. The same intertwined circles. Jungkook pulled the drawer. Locked. Jimin examined the ring. Maybe. He inserted the silver ring into the narrow slot beneath the symbol. The drawer opened. Inside was a cassette tape and a handwritten note. Jimin picked up the note. The promise belongs to the one who remembers. Jungkook looked confused. Who remembers what? Jimin read the second line. Ask Jimin what happened on the night of the accident. Jimin froze. What accident? Jungkook stared at him. You don't remember? No. What accident? The accident that killed your father. Jimin's face went pale. My father didn't die in an accident. Jungkook looked at him. What? He died of a heart attack. That's what I was told. Jimin shook his head. No. Jungkook stared at him. Then what happened? I remember the hospital. Jimin. I remember my father lying in the bed. Jimin's voice became distant. I remember my mother crying. What else? I remember someone standing outside the room. Who? Jimin closed his eyes. The memory came back in fragments. A dark coat. Wet shoes. A silver watch. A hand holding an umbrella. And a voice. A voice he had forgotten. Jimin opened his eyes. I remember. Jungkook stepped closer. What? The night my father died. Jimin swallowed. There was a man in the hallway. Who? I don't know. What did he say? Jimin pressed his fingers against his temple. He told me. His breathing became uneven. He told me not to trust Jungkook. Jungkook went completely still. What? Jimin looked at him. He said you would eventually betray me. Jungkook's expression broke. You remembered that. I didn't know it was real. Why? Because I was 13. Jungkook took a step backward. And you forgot. Jimin nodded. Drama. Jungkook stared at him. Did you believe him? No. Why? Because you were standing outside the hospital room. Jungkook's eyes filled with tears. Jimin continued. You were crying. Jungkook looked away. I remember. Jimin's voice softened. You told me you weren't going anywhere. Jungkook whispered. I meant it. I know. For a moment, the mystery disappeared. There were no fathers. No promises. No hidden rooms. No cameras. Only Jimin and Jungkook. Two people who had somehow survived every secret thrown between them. Then the cassette player clicked. Both turned. The old machine had switched on by itself. Static filled the room. Jimin stepped closer. A man's voice emerged. His father's voice. Jimin. Jimin stopped. If you are hearing this, then you finally remembered the night I died. Jimin covered his mouth. Jungkook reached for his hand. The recording continued. I need you to understand something. Static crackled. The man who spoke to you that night was not Jungkook's father. Jimin's eyes widened. He was someone else. The recording paused. Then came the sentence that made Jimin and Jungkook look at each other. He was the person who started the promise. Jungkook whispered. Who? The recording continued. His name is. The audio distorted. A harsh burst of static filled the room. Jimin slammed his hand against the player. No. The recording resumed. But the voice was different. Distorted. Artificial. Jimin. Jimin froze. The voice continued. You and Jungkook have been asking the wrong question. Jungkook stepped in front of Jimin. What do you want? The voice laughed softly. I want you to remember why you made the promise. Jimin stared at the recorder. We were children. No. The voice became colder. You were witnesses. Jimin's blood ran cold. Witnesses to what? Silence. Then the voice answered. The night your fathers disappeared. Jungkook's face changed. My father didn't disappear. He died. That's what you were told. Jungkook clenched his fists. What did you do to him? The voice laughed. Nothing. Then who did? You already know. Jimin looked at Jungkook. Neither understood. The voice continued. The person standing closest to you. The cassette stopped. Silence filled the room. Jimin slowly looked at Jungkook. Closest to us. Jungkook whispered. Someone we've known for years. Jimin looked at the photograph again. The woman standing behind them. The mysterious figure from the station. The hidden camera. The envelope. The ring. Everything suddenly seemed connected. Then Jimin noticed something written beneath the cassette player. A single sentence. The first promise was made by 2 children. The second promise was made by 1 adult. Jimin's eyes widened. Jungkook. What? There were 2 promises. Jungkook looked at the writing. Then we need to find the second one. Jimin nodded. But before they could move, The station door slammed shut. The lights went out. A voice whispered from directly behind them. "You finally remembered." Jimin and Jungkook turned at the same time. Someone was standing in the darkness. And this time, Jimin recognized the voice immediately. "Jimin, stay behind me." Jungkook's voice was low, but Jimin could hear the fear beneath it. The figure remained motionless in the darkness. Jimin could hear his own heartbeat. 1 beat. 2. 3. Then the station lights flickered back on. The figure stepped forward. Jimin's breath caught. Mr. Han. Han Seojin stood beneath the broken lamp, his coat soaked from the rain, his face unusually pale. Jungkook immediately moved between him and Jimin. "You." Mr. Han raised both hands. "I didn't come here to hurt you." "You followed us." "Yes." "You knew about the station." "Yes." "You knew about the promise." "Yes." Jungkook's jaw tightened. "And you knew my mother was alive." Mr. Han looked at him. For the first time, there was no attempt to hide anything in his expression. "Yes." Jungkook looked as though he had been struck. "You knew." "I did." "For how long?" 11 years. Jimin looked at Mr. Han with disbelief. 11 years. Mr. Han nodded. "You watched Jungkook grow up believing his mother was dead." "I had no choice." Jungkook laughed bitterly. "Everyone has a choice." Mr. Han's eyes lowered. "You're right." Jungkook stepped closer. "Then why?" "Because your mother asked me to." Silence. Jungkook froze. "My mother. She begged me not to tell you." "Why?" "Because the people who were searching for her were also searching for you." Jimin stepped forward. "Who were they?" Mr. Han looked toward the windows. "People who believed the promise was an asset." Jimin frowned. "An asset?" "Your families had access to something valuable." "What?" Mr. Han hesitated. "Information." Jungkook shook his head. "That doesn't explain anything." "It will." Mr. Han walked toward the old desk. He picked up the cassette player. "Your fathers weren't only business partners." Jimin stared at him. "What else were they?" "They were investigating financial crimes involving several powerful people." Jungkook's expression hardened. "And they kept evidence." "Yes." "Where?" Mr. Han looked around the station. "Here." Jimin's eyes widened. "The station." "Your fathers believed no one would search here." Jimin looked at the old tracks. "Because of us." Mr. Han nodded. "This was the only place where you and Jungkook could meet without anyone noticing." Jungkook looked at Jimin. Their childhood memories suddenly seemed different. The secret meetings. The notes. The promises. The strange feeling that someone was always watching. They hadn't imagined it. Someone really had been watching. Mr. Han reached beneath the desk. He pulled out a small metal case. Jungkook immediately stepped forward. "What is that?" "The second promise." Jimin's breath caught. Mr. Han placed the case on the desk. It was covered with scratches. 2 intertwined circles were engraved across the lid. Jimin reached toward it. Mr. Han stopped him. "Before you open it, you need to understand something." "What?" "The second promise wasn't made by your fathers." "Then who made it?" Mr. Han looked at Jungkook. "Your mother." Jungkook stared at the metal case. "My mother made a promise." "Yes." "To whom?" Mr. Han's expression became grim. "To your father." Jungkook slowly shook his head. What was it? Mr. Han looked at Jimin. She promised that if your fathers failed, she would protect both of you. Jimin felt a strange pressure in his chest. And did she? She tried. What happened? She discovered the person who was betraying them. Jungkook's eyes narrowed. Who? Mr. Han didn't answer. Instead, he opened the metal case. Inside was a folded document, and beneath it was a small photograph. Jimin picked up the photograph first. His fingers went cold. It showed his father, Jungkook's father, Mr. Han, and Jungkook's mother. All four were standing together. But that wasn't what shocked Jimin. A fifth person stood behind them. Jimin recognized him. His blood ran cold. That's impossible. Jungkook looked at the photograph. His face drained of color. The fifth person was Jimin's father's lawyer. The same man they had seen driving away from the estate. The same man who had been present when Jimin's father died. The same man who had told Jimin not to trust Jungkook. Jungkook stared at the photograph. He was there. Mr. Han nodded. He was there from the beginning. Jimin's hands trembled. Then why did our families trust him? They didn't. What? Mr. Han looked at him. They suspected him. Then why was he still around? Because they needed him. For what? Mr. Han's expression darkened. He controlled the accounts. Jimin felt sick. The money. Yes. The company. Yes. The documents. Yes. And the evidence. Mr. Han nodded. He had access to everything. Jungkook picked up the document. Then what's this? Mr. Han looked at him. The truth about the promise. Jungkook unfolded it. His eyes moved across the page. Then he stopped. Jimin watched his expression change. What does it say? Jungkook didn't answer. Jungkook. He handed the document to Jimin. Jimin, read. We, the undersigned, promise that Jimin and Jungkook shall never be forced to remain together by family obligation, financial pressure, or manipulation. Jimin's eyes softened. The next line changed everything. If either boy discovers that their relationship has been manipulated, they must be separated until they can freely choose whether to return to one another. Jimin looked at Jungkook. Separated. Jungkook nodded slowly. That was the condition. But why? Mr. Han answered. Because your fathers were afraid someone would manipulate your emotions. Jimin's heart sank. So they planned to separate us. Only if necessary. Who decides? Neither of you. Jimin stared at him. Then who? Mr. Han looked at the door. The person who holds the original seal. Jungkook frowned. What seal? Mr. Han pointed toward the metal case. Look inside. Jungkook searched the case. There was a small velvet compartment. Inside lay an old silver seal. Jimin recognized the symbol. The intertwined circles. Jungkook picked it up. Who has authority over this? Mr. Han's expression changed. Your mother. Jungkook stared at him. She still has it. She had it. What does that mean? She gave it away. To whom? Mr. Han looked at Jimin. Jimin's stomach tightened. Why are you looking at me? Because your father gave the seal to you. Jimin shook his head. No. Yes. I've never seen it. You don't remember. Jimin's breath caught. Why? Because your father hid it inside something you carried every day. Jimin searched his memories. something he had carried every day. A childhood object. A gift. A keepsake. His eyes suddenly widened. My watch. Jungkook looked at him. The old watch your father gave you. Jimin nodded. He pulled the watch from his pocket. The silver case was scratched from years of use. His father had given it to him on his 13th birthday. Jimin had never taken it apart. He opened the back. A tiny compartment was hidden beneath the mechanism. Inside was a miniature silver seal. Jimin stared at it. I've carried this for 15 years. Mr. Han nodded. Your father wanted you to have it without knowing what it meant. Jungkook stepped closer. Why would he do that? Because he knew that one day you would need to choose. Jimin looked at the seal. Choose what? Whether to continue the promise. Jungkook's eyes met Jimin's. And if he refuses? Mr. Han looked at Jimin. The promise dies. Jimin slowly closed his fingers around the seal. Then that's what I'll do. Jungkook looked startled. You'll destroy it. I'll end anything that was built on fear. Mr. Han nodded. That is your right. Jimin looked at Jungkook. But that doesn't mean I'm leaving you. Jungkook's eyes softened. I know. No. Jimin stepped closer. I want you to understand. Jungkook waited. If the promise disappears, whatever happens between us has to be because we choose it. Jungkook smiled faintly. Then choose me. Jimin's eyes filled with tears. I already have. Jungkook reached for Jimin's hand. Their fingers intertwined. Mr. Han quietly turned away, giving them a moment. Then a sound came from outside. A car door slammed. Mr. Han immediately looked toward the window. We need to leave. Jungkook's expression changed. Why? They found us. Who? Mr. Han grabbed the metal case. The lawyer. Jimin's heart pounded. How? He has the other seal. Jungkook looked at him. Other seal? Yes. There are two. One belongs to your family. And one belongs to mine. Mr. Han nodded. Together, they can activate the original promise. Jimin stared. And if he has the other one? He can legally claim control over everything your father's left behind. Jungkook's jaw tightened. Then we can't let him get it. Mr. Han looked at the station entrance. We're already too late. Headlights appeared through the rain. One car. Then another. Then a third. Jimin stepped closer to Jungkook. They're here. Mr. Han grabbed a lantern. There's another exit. They ran toward the back of the station. Jimin kept the silver seal inside his fist. Jungkook stayed beside him. The sound of footsteps entered the station behind them. A voice echoed through the darkness. Jimin. Jimin recognized it immediately. The lawyer. Jimin, listen to me. Jungkook shouted back. Stay away from him. The footsteps grew louder. Mr. Han opened a hidden door beneath the old ticket counter. A narrow passage appeared. Go. Jimin and Jungkook entered. Mr. Han followed. The door closed behind them. They moved through the narrow tunnel. The walls were damp. Water dripped onto Jimin's shoulders. Jungkook held his hand tightly. Are you okay? Jimin nodded. You? No. Jimin almost laughed. Good. Jungkook looked at him. Good. If you're scared, I'm not the only one. Jungkook smiled. I suppose that's true. They reached the end of the tunnel. A metal door stood before them. Mr. Han unlocked it. They emerged into a small underground chamber. Jimin looked around. Shelves lined the walls. Old documents filled them. Boxes, photographs, records, and one large wooden chest. Mr. Han walked toward it. This is where your fathers kept the final evidence. Jungkook looked at the chest. Open it. Mr. Han hesitated. Once we open it, there is no going back. Jimin stepped forward. Neither of us wants to go back. Mr. Han unlocked the chest. The lid opened. Inside was a single black folder. Jimin picked it up. His father's handwriting was across the cover. For Jimin and Jungkook. Jimin opened it. The first page contained a photograph. Jimin stared. His face went completely white. Jungkook looked over his shoulder. Then Jungkook stopped breathing. The photograph showed Jimin and Jungkook as children, standing beneath the broken clock, holding hands. But there was something in the background neither of them had ever noticed. A man, watching them, and beside him stood Jimin's father, Jungkook's father, and Jungkook's mother. All three adults were looking directly at the boys. The date beneath the photograph was 15 years earlier. Jimin whispered. They knew. Jungkook shook his head. They didn't just know. He pointed toward the corner of the photograph. A fourth adult stood there. The lawyer. Jungkook's voice became almost inaudible. He was there when we made the first promise. Jimin looked at the photograph again. Then he noticed the lawyer's hand. He was holding something. A silver seal. Jimin looked at the seal in his own palm. Then at the photograph. The symbols were identical. Mr. Han whispered. That is the original seal. Jimin's heart pounded. But if he had it 15 years ago? Mr. Han looked toward the door. Then he has been controlling the promise from the beginning. Suddenly, footsteps echoed in the tunnel. They had found the hidden passage. Jungkook looked at Jimin. Jimin closed the folder. Whatever happens. Jungkook squeezed his hand. We stay together. The footsteps stopped outside. Then came 3 slow knocks. Knock, knock, knock. A man's voice came through the metal door. Jimin. Jimin froze. It was the lawyer. But the next sentence made Jimin's blood run cold. Jungkook isn't the person you should be afraid of. A pause. You should be afraid of the person standing beside you. Jimin slowly turned toward Mr. Han. Mr. Han's face had gone completely pale. Jungkook looked at Mr. Han. Then at Jimin. For the first time, neither of them knew whom to trust. Don't look at me like that, Jimin. Mr. Han's voice trembled. But Jimin couldn't move. The lawyer's warning continued to echo inside his head. You should be afraid of the person standing beside you. Jungkook stood between Jimin and the metal door, his shoulders tense, his eyes fixed on Mr. Han. Tell us the truth. Mr. Han looked at him. I have been telling you the truth. No, Jungkook said quietly. You've been telling us pieces of it. Jimin tightened his grip on the folder. Were you involved? Mr. Han didn't answer. Jimin's voice became sharper. Mr. Han. I was there. The words fell like a stone. Jungkook's expression hardened. Where? The night your fathers died. Jimin's breath caught. You were there. Yes. Why? To stop it. Jungkook stepped forward. Did you? Mr. Han looked down. No. The silence that followed was unbearable. Jimin's fingers trembled. What happened? Mr. Han slowly sat on the wooden chest. Your fathers discovered the financial records. The records you told us about. Yes. They discovered the lawyer was stealing from them. Yes. Then why didn't they expose him? Because they discovered something worse. Jungkook stared. What? Mr. Han looked at Jimin. The lawyer wasn't working alone. Jimin's stomach tightened. Who was helping him? Mr. Han's eyes moved toward the metal door. He had someone inside your families. Who? Mr. Han closed his eyes. Jimin's mother. Jimin stopped breathing. No. Mr. Han looked at him. She was being blackmailed. Jimin shook his head. My mother would never betray my father. She didn't want to. Then why? Because the lawyer had evidence that could destroy your family. What evidence? Mr. Han hesitated. Your father's involvement in something illegal. Jimin's expression changed. My father wasn't a criminal. I didn't say he was. Then what? He was investigating people who were. Jimin stared. So the lawyer fabricated evidence. Yes. And used it to control my mother. Yes. Jungkook's fists clenched. What happened after that? The night of the accident, your fathers planned to meet at the station. Why here? Because they believed the station was the only place the lawyer couldn't monitor. Jimin looked around. But he found them. Yes. And you? I followed. Why? To warn them. Jungkook looked at him. Too late. Mr. Han nodded. Much too late. Jimin opened the folder again. Inside was a handwritten timeline. His father's handwriting. Dates. Meetings. Names. Payments. And finally, one line circled in red. The promise must survive even if we don't. Jimin stared at it. They knew they were going to die. Mr. Han nodded. They suspected. Then why didn't they run? Because running would have put you in greater danger. Jimin's eyes filled with tears. They stayed because of us. Yes. Jungkook looked down. My father died trying to protect us. And your mother. Mr. Han's expression changed. She survived. Jungkook looked up. You knew? Yes. For 11 years. Yes. Why didn't you tell me? Because your mother made me promise. Jungkook laughed bitterly. Another promise. Mr. Han looked at him. She believed that if you knew she was alive, you would search for her. I would have. And they would have found you. Jungkook's voice cracked. I would rather have risked my life than spend 11 years believing she abandoned me. Mr. Han's eyes filled with regret. I know. Jimin stepped toward Jungkook. Jungkook looked at him. Jimin didn't say anything. He simply held his hand. Jungkook squeezed it. Then a loud metallic impact struck the door. Everyone jumped. The lawyer's voice came through again. You have 5 minutes. Mr. Han stood. There's another way out. Jungkook looked at him suspiciously. Why should we trust you? You shouldn't. The answer surprised them. Mr. Han continued. You shouldn't trust anyone tonight. He walked toward a stone wall. Pressed his palm against a hidden mark. A section of the wall moved. Behind it was another passage. Jimin looked at Jungkook. Do we go? Jungkook nodded. Together. They entered. The passage was narrow and dark. Jimin walked behind Jungkook. Mr. Han followed them. The door closed. Seconds later, the metal chamber shook. The lawyer had broken through. They hurried deeper into the tunnel. Jimin heard voices behind them. "Find them. They can't be far," Jungkook whispered. "Faster." They reached a staircase. At the top was a small wooden door. Jungkook opened it. They emerged inside an abandoned chapel. Jimin stared around. Candles, dusty pews, a cracked stained glass window, and on the altar sat a single box. Jimin walked toward it. "This place." Jungkook looked around. "Do you remember it?" Jimin shook his head. "No." Mr. Han stopped at the entrance. "This is where your fathers made the first version of the promise." Jimin turned. "They did?" "Yes." Jungkook approached the altar. The box had 2 locks. One marked J. One marked J. Jimin took out the silver seal. Jungkook took the ring. They placed them into the locks simultaneously. Click. The box opened. Inside was a letter. Jimin unfolded it. He recognized his father's handwriting. "If you have reached this place, then you have already learned that the promise was never what you thought it was." Jimin continued. "Jimin and Jungkook were never bound by our agreement. They were protected by it." Jungkook read over his shoulder. "But there is one final condition." Jimin's fingers tightened. "The promise can only end when both boys willingly reject it." Jimin looked at Jungkook. "So we have to reject it?" "Yes." "But why?" Jungkook's eyes moved to the final paragraph. "Because if we don't, someone else can claim it." Jimin read the rest. "If the promise remains active, the holder of the second seal can legally interfere in the lives of Jimin and Jungkook." Jimin's blood ran cold. "The lawyer." Mr. Han nodded. "He wants the promise active." "Why?" "Because it gives him access to the inheritance." Jungkook stared. "What inheritance?" Mr. Han looked toward the chapel doors. "Everything." Jimin's eyes widened. "The company, the properties, the accounts, the evidence, and control over us." Mr. Han nodded. Jungkook's expression became furious. "So all of this was about control?" "Yes." Jimin looked at the letter. "Then we end it." He placed the silver seal on the altar. Jungkook placed the ring beside it. Together, they pressed their hands against the document. Jimin whispered, "I reject the promise." Jungkook looked at him. "I reject it too." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the silver seal cracked. A thin line appeared across its surface. The ring fell from the altar. The chapel lights flickered. The document began to burn from the edges. Jimin stepped back. "What is happening?" Mr. Han stared. "The promise is ending." The paper turned to ash. The seal broke in two, and the ring split apart. Jungkook looked at Jimin. "It's over." Jimin nodded. "It's over." But then the chapel doors opened. The lawyer walked inside. He was holding a gun. Mr. Han immediately stepped in front of Jimin and Jungkook. "Don't." The lawyer smiled. "You destroyed the promise." Jimin stared at him. "Yes." "You don't understand what you've done." "We understand perfectly." "No." The lawyer's smile disappeared. "You've just destroyed the only thing keeping you alive." Jungkook stepped forward. "We don't need your promise." The lawyer raised the gun. "You will." A loud gunshot shattered the chapel. Jimin screamed. Jungkook grabbed him. Mr. Han collapsed. "Mr. Han." Jimin dropped beside him. Blood spread across Mr. Han's shirt. Jungkook looked toward the lawyer, but the man was already running. Jungkook started after him. Jimin grabbed his arm. "Don't." He shot him. "He might be baiting you." Jungkook stopped. He looked at Mr. Han. Mr. Han was still conscious. "Barely." "Listen," he whispered. Jimin leaned closer. "Who?" Mr. Han coughed. "The person." His eyes moved toward the chapel entrance. "The person behind everything." Jimin held his hand. "Tell me." Mr. Han looked at Jungkook, then back at Jimin. "It isn't the lawyer." Jimin froze. "What?" Mr. Han's lips trembled. "He's only the messenger." Jungkook knelt beside him. "Then who?" Mr. Han whispered one name. Jimin's face went completely pale. Jungkook stared at him. Neither spoke, because the name was impossible. It belonged to someone they had believed had been dead for years. Someone whose death had shaped their childhood. Someone whose disappearance had created the promise. Someone who had been secretly watching them from the beginning. Jimin whispered, "No." The chapel doors slowly closed behind them. And from somewhere beyond the stained glass windows came the sound of a woman's voice. "Hello, my son. Hello, my son." Jungkook froze. The voice came from behind the chapel doors, soft and trembling, yet unmistakably familiar. Jungkook slowly turned. The doors opened. His mother stood there, alive. For several seconds, Jungkook couldn't move. Jimin watched him carefully, afraid that the truth might break something inside him that had survived for too many years. "Mom." The woman stepped forward. "I'm sorry." Jungkook's eyes filled with tears. "You were alive." "Yes." "For 11 years." "Yes." "You let me believe you were dead." "I had no choice." Jungkook shook his head. "There is always a choice." His mother lowered her eyes. "I know." Jungkook looked away, fighting the tears. "Why?" "Because the person who threatened our families knew that you were my weakness. And Jimin, he was your strength." Jimin looked at her. "What does that mean?" She walked toward them. "The promise was never created to make you love each other. It was created because your fathers knew that if you stayed together, neither of you could be easily controlled." Jimin remembered the words written beneath the broken clock. "Choose each other freely." Suddenly, everything became clear. The secret letters. The hidden room. The silver seal. The ring. The photographs. The years of fear. Their fathers hadn't been trying to control their future. They had been trying to protect it. Jungkook wiped his tears. Who was behind everything? His mother looked toward the chapel entrance. The lawyer was only following orders. "Whose?" She hesitated. Then she looked at Jimin. "Your mother." Jimin stopped breathing. "My mother." She didn't betray your father willingly. She was threatened, manipulated, and eventually forced into helping them. Jimin shook his head. "But she died. She disappeared. Just like you." "Yes." Jimin looked down. 2 families. 2 disappearances. 2 children. 1 promise. And years of lies. "Where is she?" His mother smiled sadly. "She has been waiting for you." A small sound came from the doorway. Jimin turned. His mother stood there. Older. Tired. But alive. Jimin couldn't speak. "Mom." She looked at him. "I'm sorry, Jimin." Jimin's eyes filled with tears. He walked toward her slowly. You were alive. Yes. Why didn't you come back? Because every time I tried, they threatened you. Jimin's face crumpled. You should have trusted me. I know. He hugged her. For the first time in years, Jimin allowed himself to cry without hiding it. Across the chapel, Jungkook watched silently. His mother approached him. Jungkook looked at her. I don't know if I can forgive you. You don't have to tonight. I don't know if I can understand. You don't have to. Jungkook swallowed. But you're here. Yes. That has to mean something. His mother smiled through her tears. It means I finally get to tell you the truth. The lawyer was found before sunrise. The evidence hidden beneath the station exposed years of financial manipulation, forged documents, threats, and crimes committed against both families. The original promise was officially destroyed. The silver seal was never restored. The ring remained broken. And for the first time, Jimin and Jungkook were completely free. No family agreement. No inheritance clause. No secret obligation. No promise forcing them to stay. Only choice. Weeks later, Jimin returned to the abandoned train station. The rain had stopped. Sunlight poured through the broken roof. Jungkook was already waiting beneath the old clock. Jimin smiled. You came. Jungkook looked at him. I said I would. You don't have to anymore. I know. Jimin stepped closer. That promise is gone. I know. So why are you still here? Jungkook smiled. Because I choose to be. Jimin's eyes softened. Even after everything. Especially after everything. Jimin looked at the broken clock above them. Years ago, two frightened children had stood beneath it and promised never to leave each other. They had believed the promise would decide their future. They had been wrong. Their future belonged to them. Jimin reached for Jungkook's hand. Jungkook intertwined their fingers. No more secrets, Jimin whispered. No more lies. No more promises made for us. Jungkook smiled. Then let's make one ourselves. Jimin raised an eyebrow. What kind? Jungkook looked into his eyes. One we can break if we ever stop being happy. Jimin laughed softly. And if we don't, then we keep choosing each other. Jimin rested his forehead against Jungkook's. That sounds better than a promise. Why? Because it's a choice. Jungkook smiled. Then choose. Jimin looked at him. I choose you. Jungkook's fingers tightened around his. I choose you too. Outside, the first train in years passed beyond the station. Its whistle echoed through the morning air. The broken clock remained frozen at the same hour. But Jimin no longer cared. Neither did Jungkook. The past had finally released them. And whatever came next would not be written by their fathers, their families, their enemies, or an ancient promise. It would be written by Jimin and Jungkook themselves. Together, freely, by choice. And this time, that was more than enough.